Our next session, Building a Smart City for Everyone, features the Honorable LaToya Cantrell, Mayor of New Orleans. To kick off our discussion, please welcome Mr. George Burciaga, Chief Executive Officer for Ignite Cities.
Hey there. First of all, let me thank High Tech for this incredible event with the largest group of Latino tech leaders in the country. You know, we have global tech leaders, we have Fortune 500 firms, and we have some of the leading Hispanic tech companies in the country with us today. With over 1,000 people registered, it's going to be a really active event, and we're excited to have you. Not only that, we also have tech firms from across the country. There's at least an additional 20 countries that are participating at some capacity. So we want to say thank you to them, and thank you to High Tech. Thank you to Omar and his entire team for really engaging technology leaders across the world. This is the one time, this is the opportunity where Latino tech leaders get together to create change and impact. And we're doing it with my favorite mayor in the country. Just so you know that. Before we get, yeah, it's true. Well, before we get started, let me also say one thing. We're here for the High Tech Summer Leadership Summit, and today's topic, Mayor, this is all about you. And actually, all of the questions, the idea came from your inspiring us across the country. If we're going to build a smart city, it has to be for everyone. We keep telling people that, you keep telling people that it cannot be for a group of folks. It actually has to be able to support everyone at the table. Today's conversation is with my friend, Mayor LaToya Cantrell of New Orleans. We're going to discuss the importance of digital equity and how she's embracing technology to accelerate innovation and empowering residents. And when I say that, Mayor, you know how I feel about you. You know that, first of all, thank you for letting us be a part of your team to really support what you do. But when you think about innovation, I immediately go to you. And I'm not saying that because you're on, I'm saying that because it's a fact. First female mayor in the city of New Orleans. Talk to us about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about the city of New Orleans.
Oh, well, thank you, George. And you've been just a great partner. I've been mayor of the city now for 3 years. May the 7th made 3 years for me, focusing very heavily on infrastructure, in which technology is a key component of that. Coming in May of 2018, the first thing that we did, listen, when even I had some of my colleagues on the council say, oh, no, you don't need to put money in cyber security in terms of insurance. And lo and behold, December of 2019, we get a cyber attack. But making sure not only that we have the insurance, but it did force us to focus on improving our infrastructure in ways that we knew we wanted to, but it just pushed us even faster. And so we've embraced technology, you know, had to improve, upgrade all aspects of our systems, our data, you know, where we store data, all of our servers, computers, laptops, and the like. But that's also, it allowed us to pivot very quickly when this pandemic hit. And, you know, and it's like, well, who knew? But thank God we took those steps on the front end. So I'm only sharing that sharing that with you all to say that we really are looking at things comprehensively and holistically and taking on challenges in order to fix them, not making excuses, building those partnerships necessary to get things done. And so one of the projects that I wanted to speak with you all about, and I'm always big on meeting our people where they are. And of course, with that digital divide, you know, the need to expand broadband came front and center pre-COVID, but absolutely in the midst of this pandemic. But also when we talked about connecting our people to resources, and particularly our Black and Brown community. And when I had to raise money, you know, for our Latino community that weren't eligible for any CARES Act dollars, you know, but we raised privately money that we can give families up to $500 each because we knew that they didn't have access to anything. But this is also why we were pushing for municipal ID cards. But you know what? With George's help and that of MasterCard and MoCappy, we have a smart ID I've signed the contract on, the partnership is real. And finally,
Amen.
able to lift up this work. But just like, man, if we have the cards in place, getting the private dollars to help our residents, well, they would have their cards to use now. However, they will be connected to this resource. So it was tied to our most vulnerable population. And even looking at those who are reentering society after they, are incarcerated, they don't have an ID, they don't have a bank account, that sort of thing. And even just regular citizens don't have this. And so with this partnership, it's meeting people where they are, win, 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 but improving the quality of life of our people and destigmatizing the vulnerable situations that they have found themselves in due to systems.
Mayor, let me tell you something. You just said it, right? You gave the gospel right now, because the truth is, you were on this before COVID. The idea of changing the way people live, connecting them to city and building trust. You decided to start building trust early. And the fact that this contract is signed, you have a partnership with MasterCard and Mocha5. And let me also say, you have an incredible technology team. You have an incredible mayoral team. You have an incredible group of departments. If I think of Kim LeGroux, who has been a champion for technology, because we have a bunch of technology folks watching us right now. You believed in it from day one. You have always hashtagged the city of yes, right? That's your go-to. But you think of Josh, Emily, Art, you think of the group you put together. Great groups come together with great leadership. And that is a testament to what you put together. Now, when we talk about connecting people, you created an ID, a smart ID that actually will provide access to city services.
Yep.
Whether it's the park, the library, transit, or delivering funding, like you said, with citizen reentry programs. You said this a while ago, almost 2 years ago. You said, I want to make sure that when someone re-enters, they have financial literacy, they have the tools they need to compete. You also referred to our homeless. You said, I want to make sure that our homeless have the tools, that they have the ability to get back into society. You referred to our youth programs, saying, listen, we have 400, 500 youth that we pay to actually engage. We want to put them on these cards so we can actually start creating a unified connection to the city. You were driving that 2 years ago. You got the deal done. Tell us a little bit about sort of your ideas around not only connecting them, but how we bring everyone together, right? I mean, how do we bring people together? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, how we bring people together is really through that spirit of partnership and, doing what you say, because it's the building trust that brings you together. I mean, quite frankly, and it keeps you together. So when, I think about the guaranteed income, that
there you go.
We're now going to
that's
get
another
off
one.
the ground, but we're using the smart ID. It will be factored into how we are leveraging the partnership, but also making it accessible for our young people, because the young people 16 to 24 will be a part of our guaranteed income program. And so this is just another way of bringing people together and building that trust. But it also goes further than that. When I think about leveraging the technology infrastructure with the smart technologies to improve city services, reduce costs, and really bridge that digital divide is the way to connect people. And I don't think that we can do it without the use of technology. And we've demonstrated that really in the midst of this pandemic. So it's just keeping the lines of communication open and ensuring that, we are facing the challenges to fix them. And one of the largest ones is around the broadband technology in New Orleans. We need a citywide broadband access, that will bridge that divide and promote economic development and opportunities for all of our residents. So that's at the center of it.
Well, I'll tell you, Mayor, I'm glad you went that direction. You know why? Because during COVID, you initiated Wi-Fi relief in the middle of the hardest time every family was dealing with. You actually deployed solar-powered Wi-Fi in certain areas to help support that. So you were on this. The good news is you see the purpose of not only connecting during the pandemic, but the long-term reasons on why it's important to connect the entire city, right? So that's the goal.
No, that is the goal, and that speaks to digital equity, and making sure that it's a priority, not only for my administration, for the people, because it's not a matter of if, it's when. And so we want, to make sure that we have technology solutions, again, to bridge that divide and setting up those hubs, the Wi-Fi pilot program that will connect 10 of our Nord recreation facilities, all the sites to be 5G network. And that's going to be huge in providing that high speed Wi-Fi that's free of charge to our students, to our residents. And so that pilot should be the foundation of what we're going to use for a citywide broadband initiative.
I love it. I love it. And the truth is, we know that with what you just said, you have an initiative where you started before COVID. You got in the trenches with our residents to make sure they were connected during COVID. And now you have 10 recreational facilities being connected so that they're supported by 5G. Again, it wasn't because it happened, it was long-term. It was like, what are we going to do to change the way everybody lives? So you're on that, and it's actually being heard across the country. As you know, we work with mayors everywhere. And in fact, they're watching New Orleans react and move forward because there's a bigger plan. So thank you for that. I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit. So President Biden's American Job Plan, which totals about $2 trillion in spending within about 8 years, covers a handful of different areas of technology, whether it's fresh drinking water, updates to our electric grid, or even to the point you just made, supporting broadband across the country. We know that all of this coming together with what you've been working on, what other mayors are working on. And in fact, let me just say this, I was on the phone with your brother, Mayor Benjamin. He said, make sure he says hello. Yeah. He said, tell her hello. I don't care if it's in the middle of the session, make sure you tell her hello. So you can tell him I told you. But with all that happening, we know that you're gonna need data to really make smarter decisions. So tell us about your ideas, your team's ideas, and how you'll use data just make better decisions.
Right. So, this touches, you mentioned the president's infrastructure package. I know that will be instrumental, and also the jobs plan. It's all connected.
100%.
So, yeah, it is. And so we're wanting to, I talked about the broadband access that will bridge that divide, and then of course promoting economic development. But we're using data to show what people need, really where they need it, including health resources by tracking our vaccination rates and our positivity in terms of test rates. We used it from day one. I look at data every day, look at it at the granular level, which is that census tract level, so that we can immediately, when I say meet them where they are, go into those communities. And right now we're doing that heavily around vaccinations. And so we're about 66% of our population eligible that's vaccinated. We've embraced that 70% goal of the federal government, but we're going to continue to use our data. Also, in regards to communication, infrastructure to dispense info to our residents and provide, new channels for them to get the help from us they need. So one in mind is Smart 311, putting resources there and supportive services there. Our NOLA Ready website, which the community has said they love, they really depend upon that. And that is just the NOLA Ready website is used daily, but absolutely in the midst of crises. And we're in the midst of hurricane season right now. So that segues me into our city assisted evacuation program, our online payment systems, changes to our website so that we really the system becomes that front door, and it all happens in real time. That's our vision. So in terms of infrastructure, we need to make sure that our technology improves city services, because otherwise, what are we doing? And the pandemic forced us, we can't wait. We need to do it now and know how to pivot in real time and do things cheaper, smarter, and faster without being forced to do it. So we're just kind of embracing some lessons learned, but it's going to be, making sure people have the devices they need, that digital literacy tools that they need, so that they can use, and it's all embedded in infrastructure.
Well, I'll tell you, congratulations on meeting that 66% vaccination rate, because that ain't easy. Yeah. I know that the truth is, you know that we know each other, but I also follow all the things you do. You're in the trenches. Like you're literally, when I say trenches, I mean you're engaged. You're on the streets. You're at the pool when the swimming pool opens, like swimming. Like you're involved. You know, which builds a connection that is unheard of. You know, when we look at how people connect using technology, you could probably pick, and I'm saying this because it's a fact, you know, great businesses who use technology to accelerate. Google, Microsoft. There are cities who are doing that now. Cities who are not competing with each other, but are competing with technology firms. So when I see you, I think of Google, I think of Microsoft, I think of MasterCard, I think of firms that are actually competing to create change. And you're doing that with an amazing team, but you're also doing that because you're actually connected to people. You're actually humanizing the engagement, the event. You're taking that shiny box that most city leaders think about on a poll, but you're connecting it to a human life. You're saying that should do something for them, and this is what it looks like. I always say it's humanizing what technology should be doing. So when we think about technology, and I'm going to say this for everybody watching, the mayor has always thought about, if I hear a gunshot, there should be a light that turns on, the police should be dispatched, the bus should stop moving. Technology should work around people. People shouldn't work around technology. And the mayor is doing that. So when she talks about broadband, when she talks about data for vaccinations, when she talks about Smart 311, all of these things are responsive to human beings, which is incredible because that's the way a technology business is built. So all these tech firms watching, and you have some of the largest, mayor, in the world participating today.
Oh, wow.
You are leading by example.
Wow. Well, I'm trying to, and I'm just trying to meet the needs of our people and being open to hearing their feedback in real time. And when I came into office, there were tools, technological tools that were not utilized, that were already paid for, but they weren't utilized because of this one way of communicating. And so we we switched the switch and said, oh no, yep, we want to hear back in real time. And even if, it's something that we don't want to hear, but we need to hear it, because it allows us to respond to the needs of people, as well as educate them or give them the facts or address their issue that they're bringing to us. So that was not being afraid to open ourselves up to criticism, but you have to ensure that it's two-way. And so what we're trying to do now, we're looking for public-private partnerships to continue to build on equity and opportunity in the city. And, we hope to find long-term partners, hopefully through an RFP this summer, to build a sustainable technology infrastructure and provide citywide connectivity and really launch a smart city plan to improve these services. So we're not there yet, but we are working towards it every day. And the partnerships really make it happen for us.
100%. So that leads us to believe you're a strong believer, and you have been, hence our relationship, that P3s, that the idea of working with private sector helps us move forward faster. With that said, are there any other things going on in the city? Like, for instance, I just heard you guys have your events going back on, right? Is Essence coming back? So, I mean, you got a lot of people watching. What's happening in New Orleans right now that you want to at least inform us so we know what's going on and we can re-engage? Because a lot of people have thought, every city is kind of shut down, but cities are opening back up. Tell us a little bit about what's happening.
Yeah, well, cities are definitely opening back up. But one thing that's happening that didn't stop through the pandemic was infrastructure investments throughout the city. And 2020 was an unprecedented year for this city, spending an upward of 800 million on infrastructure. And in 2021, we're going to exceed that. So right now, in the city, in the state, we are spending more on infrastructure than any place else. And we didn't stop again during the pandemic when other cities made that decision. But you know what? It's been an economic engine and a stimulus keeping people employed throughout. But I tell you, the civic trust has really gotten us where we are with our vaccination rates. And so we are opening up. We do have, the mask mandate is no longer there because the majority of our people are vaccinated. And so we're just pushing for those who are not, because really they're the ones that are at the greatest risk, and surely with these variants coming our way. And so at 66% and moving towards 70, we're able to ensure that festivals return to our city. We just completed the Hybrid Essence Festival that they did activate throughout the city. Of course, it was a hybrid. They'll be doing virtual on July 4th weekend and leading up to that. But having them in our city and the spend was significant, employing not only our cultural bearers, but also our film industry. It was just phenomenal. We have coming up, well, Jazz Fest. October is going to be the month of festivals. And so the city is open, and now it's just my priority to make sure that we're the safest place to live and the safest place to visit. And it's going to be, leaning on partners and people.
Absolutely. And you know what I've noticed is,
It's phenomenal.
well, I'll tell you, Mayor, I was there 2 weeks ago. I didn't bother you because I actually met with your team, but I didn't bother you because I knew you were busy. But my wife and my kids were like, you better bring us some beignets back. I don't care what you do. I don't care who you met with. You better bring us some beignets back. I was like, okay, cool. So I did bring them literally right before I jumped on. I was only there for almost 24 hours.
Okay.
Flew in one night, left the next morning. Otherwise, I would have bothered you.
No, I know, but I missed you. And beignets can warm up very nicely in an air fryer.
Oh, I just got one too. So now I know, because, we did warm them up in the microwave. They weren't the same,
No.
but but I'm going to tell them because I literally just got one. But I am coming out to see you on the 29th, I think. They'll let you know. We're going to actually do a kickoff for the ID program with Art and everybody and Josh. So with that said, let's talk a little bit. I'm going to take a step back. We know that technology has driven a lot of the decisions you've made. Data has been important in connecting you to lowering risk and getting your city back to a place during a global pandemic to be safer. We know that this new infrastructure and these new services and these new events that are happening are going to help get people back to work. Talk to us a little bit about the people. What's the feeling like in New Orleans right now with, you're kind of moving, thank God, moving towards the light where we can see that there's a change and there's, a positive reality of what seems normal again. How are people feeling? And, and I say that because while people listening might think, I want to hear more about technology, people will drive what technology is delivered if they are safe, happy, working, learning. They have to be engaged. Everything we do has to have people involved. Tell us a little bit about how are people feeling in the city of New Orleans?
So people in the city of New Orleans are feeling pretty hopeful. They have demonstrated that they can change their behaviors to make the city safer. And right now, I'm working to get them to understand that if they took the same approach towards, that public health towards COVID-19, they can take those same steps and approach towards violent crime. It's all a public health issue. It's about how we pivot, and we can do it. We just demonstrated that we can do it, but it's changing those behaviors. And so just wanting, so people are hopeful, even in that regard. And we're having some issues with with folks returning back to work. However, what I feel for my city, and when thinking and looking through that equity lens, and even the disparity gaps in terms of the wage gap, and this city is built on hospitality, but pre-COVID, that wage gap was huge. And the backbone, the people who drive this economy are those in the service industry. So I see this really as an opportunity as businesses are benefiting and getting tapped into the ARP resources for their business. This is an opportunity to push down those dollars to increase those wages that should have been higher pre-COVID. So it's not about, I don't buy into, they're not going back to work because of the unemployment. Well, hell, they're making more than really it equates to about $13 an hour, which isn't a lot of money at all. But this is an opportunity. So we are seeing shifts in the businesses where they are improving their wage, in some areas as high as $25 an hour. And so I'm wanting this to be transformational in a way that we needed pre-COVID, that has kept so many of our people in our Black and Brown community in that disparity gap and being mostly more vulnerable to issues because of a lack of transferable wealth and opportunity. So this is how we're looking at it, educating our folks, allowing them to pivot into other growth sectors, which technology is one of them. And I tell you, people who are on this call, let me quickly, we had a large portion of our people that were unemployed due to the pandemic that drove the economy here, hospitality. I shifted some resources into workforce development that would go towards tech sales. And we took, several of our people from the industry, hospitality, and taught them how their skill sets are transferable to tech sales. And we said, look, how you pitch that dessert, that special on the menu, that cocktail. Well, actually, that's sales. And so now I'm just so proud. We have a cohort that is not going to look back because they're making $75,000 a year, $85,000 in tech sales when they didn't even know they already had the skill sets necessary to be viable in this area. So this is our way of building, meeting people where they are, building them up and letting them understand in a dignified way that they already are enough. We just need to pivot them into areas of growth and opportunity. So thank you again.
Well, listen, you just said they are already enough. I love that. The idea, and you just hit on something that I think most people have missed. You showed them how to transfer a skill set. Hello. Yeah. The old ways of doing things have to naturally progress to something different. And what you did was you absolutely hit an area of transformation for a human being, for a person, Black, brown, to actually get up and say, I have what it takes to be somebody and leverage a skill set I own. Because you can't teach that piece, that how they sell that cocktail. I mean, I know people right now that can't sell anything. And the fact that you recognize that there's a transformational component to who they will become, and it's already in them, is so powerful. Like, I'm telling you right now, it's powerful, because you know what? I didn't even catch that. I didn't even catch that piece on how things will change. But the nice piece is you said you're meeting people where they are, and that's incredible. And it's important for us to reference. So I want everybody watching, the Googles, the MasterCards, the Microsofts, everybody who's paying attention, the Ciscos of the world, the Accentures. Accenture, I know you're out there. I know you're paying attention. Listen, the city of New Orleans has not only demonstrated that broadband connectivity, relief Wi-Fi, the idea of connecting people at street level with a contactless municipal ID is going to transform the way people live. The mayor's already stated that. She's moving in that direction. So I'm positive the mayor would welcome ideas on what else could transform the way the city works. If you do have some, please send them over. We'd love to hear about them. With that, Mayor, I want to give you a question that may not be asked of you. And we've talked about very hard sort of ideas, new projects, things that you're doing. If you could create a future city, the city that nobody's seen, a city that nobody's built, if you could do anything with no parameters, no box, nothing holding you back, forget procurement, budget, all these other things, what would be important for you in building your future city? A city that has no boundaries, has no restraints. What would you like to see? And this is just my question, because you know me, I love to hear ideas so we can build, but what would you do?
Well, I know we're out of time, but what I will do would be focusing on, again, those disparities that have existed in my community for generations, quite frankly. Being here in the South, being here in the once Jim Crow South, facing a legislature that has preemptive legislation left and right, that is really attacking our city because we're mostly Black and brown. So I would be focusing on, again, getting rid of a wage gap, making sure that our people have everything they need to be successful and viable. And technology has a role to play in that, even as it relates to our health and health disparities as well. And of course, economics plays a role in everything that we do, but we have to build our people up and dignify them in our response. So it would be creating an environment where people can thrive, where this is the most Afrocentric city in the United States of America. And so that we can preserve the culture that's only found in this city. And so that instead of marketing the culture, ensuring that we're reinvesting in the people who make the culture happen. So that's what I see for the city of New Orleans when I think about a city that I envision in the future.
Well,
So
Mayor,
thank you
listen,
again.
you inspire me, as you know, and I'm gonna see you in about 2 weeks. So I just want to say on behalf of High Tech, Ignite, and everybody else, thank you for inspiring the thousands of people that are watching and everybody else that will hear about this. And thank you for everything you do.
No, thank you, George. Thank you, team, and everybody, all the partners. And keep doing a great job for all of us.
There you go. Thank you, Mayor.
Mhm.